Hey everyone, we are Odyssey and we made Black Hole Boost. I'm Justin Lamb and I was the producer and programmer for the group. Black Hole Boost is a gladiatorial gravity slingshot survival combat game in space where players are in a galactic arena where the goal is to survive the waves of obstacles and enemies as long as possible to reach the title of champion of the leaderboard. As for simple statistics, for the last sprint, we got 36 points were assigned during the sprint. 31 of those points were moved to a verify and moved to complete, which left 5 points in assigned but not moved. Our ideal velocity was 39.4 points, while our current velocity was 33.9. As you can see with the burn down chart, we didn't really get to everything in our backlog. However, a lot of that was just a cut feature that we already agreed was getting cut, as well as a couple of duplicate cards that I messed up with Jira.
For my work in this, I did the wireframe, style guide, diagrams, VFX, SFX, and the playtesting and analysis, along with a few other things. Most of these were centralized towards getting everybody to be on the same page with the game, understanding the next steps when we're creating a new feature, along with just generally some post-production, and of course making adjustments based on what we needed to do to make the game more playable and appealing towards players. What went right? Communication, especially feedback, being able to adjust our mechanics, our art to really work, and the style guide really helped out with these artists to be able to do that. And then just our adjustments for our numerics for like spawning, cooldown, health, ammo, etc. And really getting those mechanics to work well within the game and changing out UI especially to appeal to players. What went wrong? We overscoped. We also didn't really plan for post-production. We really needed to do that, make sure that was in there though more and make more of a discussion with production. More time for VFX and sound development. We really needed FMOD in there ahead of time, and we needed more advanced diagrams and just more descriptions to help things out and make it easier on the programmers, along with the artists. I think we did well in spite of all of these things, but they needed to be there, and that unfortunately went wrong. What did I learn? Better pre-production prep, diagrams, example style guides, mood boards, etc. Communication, feedback, essential between programmers and artists, along with adjusting those numerics again for a visual, not both for visuals, along with what we need to do to balance the game out further. Better understanding of scope and based on our point system and just generally the drive and how much time we had.
Hey, Justin here again. As a producer, I managed the backlog and filled it up with user stories and created those user stories. We practiced Scrum at CAGD, so I held a lot of kickoffs and stand-ups in order to negotiate, worked with each of my devs and check in and make sure that production is running smoothly. I also did some miscellaneous leadership skills like discuss stuff with the designers, seeing if that is how it's according to their vision. Well, also another example would be setting up in-person meetings to just work on this project, especially if any of us had questions for each other. However, I was also the programmer for this project, which I was responsible for the asteroids, which included an object pool system and event system. I also created a tutorial, and furthermore, I also made playtest tools, one of the enemies being the Cerberus enemies. I also spent a lot of time making and editing the builds, our prototype builds. This included importing art assets and changing things about the game that the designer that needs a bit more than just changing a number. And finally, it's a programming job, so there's going to be bugs. Finally, I did a couple of miscellaneous things like making a VFX. For what went right, I felt like my communication and leadership skills at the end went pretty well. I also felt that assigning work by the end of the sprint for each sprint went very well, just because everybody was kept doing more and more work as the sprints went on, and I'm very proud of this group because of that. As for programming wise, I felt like my asteroid system worked very well and made it less of a headache every time I wanted to add something to an asteroid. Finally, I felt like the tutorial was pretty well made. For what went wrong, I felt like my communication skills and leadership skills were lacking at the beginning. This is my first time producing, so I just did not have experience to know what was good to do and what was bad. Multiplayer was a feature that we originally wanted, but had to be cut due to the lack of progress being made on it. I feel like if we started that a lot sooner, then it could have been in the final build. But at sprints 5 or 6, we realized no, we did not have time. Finally, the Jira backlog was kind of full of duplicates and little disorganized. We weren't allowed to delete user stories, so if I forget that I had a card or didn't remember how I worded it, then we just had a second one. As for what did I learn, I felt like I learned how to improve my communication and leadership skills and how important that was for the production of the group. I also felt like I had a better understanding of the development process from the producer's perspective. Again, this is my first time producing, and I felt like it was something I should learn how to see what that was like before I graduated.
Hi, my name is Ana Herrera and this is my work. I did 3D modeling, 2D art, and also UI elements, and some 2D animation. For my 3D modeling, I did the player, the Minotaur enemy, the Sphinx enemy, and also the Hydra enemy, as well as an imp bomb which was going to be used for the Sphinx enemy. As for 2DR, I did a lot of the backgrounds for the game, which were for the main menu, pass menu, main game, and as also the leaderboard. I also did some decorations for the main game, which was going to be just simple planets and some constellations. I also did the credits for all of our work, and I also did the UI elements for health, uh, HUDs, and also leaderboard and counter. I also did the game logo as well as a game poster, which was going to be uploaded or show in classroom. For the 2D animation, I did just for the countdown for when to play, and also the main menu animation, which was really simple too. What went right for me was communication with my team. We were always discussing what to do or what things to do to be able to do it better. Also, teamwork, which were by getting together and just discussing what to do next. Also, the feedbacks from my team members was really useful too. We were constantly saying how things were going to look better or what to do different to be able to make it work. Also, the combination of art styles from me and the other artists were really good, so we were able to have a cohesive way of doing things so they didn't look too different. For what went wrong for me was the lack of time. I had to juggle between school and also work, and my other classes were really heavily into the 3D model, which took time. And also the fact that Maya was not working properly for me. I had to lose a lot of time at the beginning of the semester just because Maya decided not to work properly, so I had to do a lot of things before that. And also having troubles to explore different objects, 3D models. I wasn't able to export them in this computer, so that kind of took time for me to be able to get home to be able to export those models and back to this computer to be able to uh, texture them. What I learned how to better manage my time. This was really helpful because I was struggling with workload and also my job too. I was able to learn how to give priority to certain objects or to certain models and how to make it work between my work and also my classes. Better communication. I was able to learn how to communicate better with my team, to ask the right questions, and see how things can get better. And I also was able to learn to find different solutions for the problems that I was having. These came with the problems that I was having with Maya mostly. So this was really helpful for me to learn and see how things will go in the future with it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maria Leland here, and I'm one of the 3D artists and modeler for this. So this is my work. First of all, I did the 3D model and texture. I started with the asteroids. Afterwards, I had some trouble with some of the functionality of the asteroids, making it into a pottery look-alike because it was the theme of the Greek. As well, went towards the enemies. I started with the Cyclops. Was simply easy to make. The Medusa took quite a while to make because I had to make the head first and then the snakes, and I wanted to make as snake realistic as possible, as well as making it more animation function. Sadly, it didn't go through because of the camera overlook of the gameplay. I did the Cerberus as well. With that, I also did the black holes, which helped identify how the character or the player could launch themselves in a way of telling them the different variation of colors of seeing if the redder the black hole gets, the player gets sucked in. And as well, I did a little model of the frame for the one of the menu borders, but that was just in case if they wanted a 3D frame. I as well did the 2D UI slash HUD, which were the menu borders, the buttons, also with the medals and the indicators for the players to verify what is going on before the player to be attacked, like the Minotaur or the Medusa or anything that's going towards them. As well, I did the team logo and the team member of their own constellations, which I picked Dolphin. What went right? So even though our group was the only one that had multiple people, we made a choice to divide our work. So I'm one of the 2D, 3D artists, and it actually helped to divide the work to make it more useful and to make ourselves less of a stressful situation. And the communication actually worked because without the communication, how we're going to process our rhythm of how to create the stuff that we need for the designer as their own style. And as well with the style, the good thing is that the style guide actually helped us moving forward and understanding what type the designer wanted to make for this particular game with the models, the UIs, or anything particular they needed for us to make as the 2D, 3D modelers. What went wrong? For me, it was the corruption of my files. It happens all the time. The good thing I had backups, and the good thing it wasn't as a tough situation as a big project, so it wasn't that much of a hassle to restart from the beginning. Sometimes the lack of communication from the beginning, because it was our first time being in a big group and trying to see the division and how to divide the project of having two modelers and one small team. As well, I was struggling with lack of resources or materials, especially for painter. Some default of the painter don't go well with the Greek theme that my team, especially designer, wanted it to have. So I had to look through research, even ask one of my teammates to see if she has any backups or any other material that he could use, which it did in the end. As well with time management, I've been struggling a lot with the time management because this is not the only class I have to make this project to be accomplished. Because I also work on the side, so I had to divide my time within this project and within my personal life as well. What I learned is the new implements that I never have used before, especially in Maya. For when I was doing the black hole, I had to see the division within, which is the actual core and the inner core of the black hole, and as well with the ring. So with this, I learned how to use hypershade, a different type of material indication of how to use it in Maya without any issues. I also learned that, like I said, the dog guide with the both helped the programmers and the artists to understand the designer needs, wants, and wishes, which we did accomplish the work overload beforehand and before the time was due.
Hello everyone. In this project, I complete the movement of the spaceship and finish the mechanic of the black holes so the player can use the black hole to change the direction of the spaceship. I also create the leaderboard so that the player can see their score in the leaderboard, and I also create different kinds of enemy and enemy spawner. And finally, I finished the audio system. What went right is the basic mechanics work well, and I complete most of the work on time, and I have good understanding of the mechanics and the rules of the game. What went wrong is I struggle on the mechanic of the multiple player, and I am familiar with audio mixer. In this project, I learned a lot. Like I learned how to make a leaderboard, and I had a better understanding of the multiple player mechanics. And I learned how to use audio mixer to control the audio. Thank you.
So, from what we learned from this experience was the importance of communication and how for asking each other's input was really helpful in making a better quality project. This also included asking questions before making those problems. We also found that setting up physical meetup times was very effective in getting work done while also being around to communicate with each other. As for what we would change about the develop process for next time, we would probably spend a lot more time in the pre-production and planning phases, just so that everything was more fleshed out and we all knew what the goal was and a clear idea of how we should get there. So this was our post-mortem, and thank you for watching.